Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to season 5 of the Call It Anything podcast. Starting a new season as the anniversary was, I believe, what was it, the 1st of, I don't know, I think it was the 3rd of July. I think that's when it always is, the 3rd of July. So we are on, and with every year that passes, we start a new season, as we've explained in the past. And so we are on to season number 5.
Wow. Congratulations, Jack.
Thank you. And sir, I mentioned to you before I started recording that I was checking something to make sure it's factual. Did you know that at least for the past 2 seasons, season 2 would have also been included, but I forgot that I had snuck in an episode right before. But for the past 2 seasons, and now this season as well, it starts off with you and I discussing Money in the Bank.
I think I remember you pointing out that observation last year.
Yeah.
But look at us continuing the consistency.
Yeah, season 2 was interrupted by me discussing the surgery that I had back in 2021 with Dominic right before. If that episode didn't happen, it would have been us talking about Money in the Bank. But I found it so interesting. I'm like, it seems each year you and I just always open the season up with Money in the Bank.
Like Batman and the Joker. We're just destined to do this forever.
Oh, man. But getting into this new season, sir, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Just trying to beat the heat, and we're about 1 month. You know, how quick is it? We're 1 month away from starting the whole school year over again. We got 9th graders, being oriented to the high school life in our bridge program. And this week, Jack, I weighed in at 299.
That's good to hear, sir. I remember seeing your post about it.
6 months coming, and I'm at my goal, so we're setting a new goal. By December, the end of this year, we're going to be 275.
Nice. That's good to hear, sir. I remember seeing your post. I was very happy.
Thank you very much for your support, your dads, your brothers, your moms, like the whole Castillo family. I know that there's a lot of love coming from your way, and I appreciate it all.
Yeah, and you mentioned the heat. I just want to mention, as I always do around this time, talking about consistency, I do want to mention to the listeners that if you hear any fans in the background, whether it be from Woody or Mr. Solis, we apologize, but just understand, it is very hot. It is always very hot during these months in California.
There's mine.
Yeah, Mr. Solis shows his. I have mine, and I have it on a low setting, so I hope it doesn't, make enough noise. But yeah, it's very hot out here. It's even worse in my family's apartment because it's an older home, so it's like It's not properly insulated, so it's like you feel that heat extra more.
Goodness.
But moving forward, starting off season 5 right yet again with Money in the Bank, as I mentioned.
Yes, sir. And you and I have seen at least one other wrestling show in the last week. So after we talk Money in the Bank, I love to pick your brain, Jack, about a couple of highlights from the other show or two.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of different shows, and I know which ones you're alluding to. So yeah, I'm very interested to get into them as well. But got to start off with Money in the Bank. Was a very interesting show, in its build up and its lead up. Money in the Bank is always a very interesting pay-per-view. Both due to the stipulation, but it's interesting to see what happens around this time of year because it's the lead up to SummerSlam.
Yes, it is. Yes, a lot of it felt like the road to SummerSlam, like the Royal Rumble might be for WrestleMania.
Yeah. So was very interested to see the stuff that occurred, on this night. And was definitely interested in a lot of the different matches, I was interested to see what directions they were going to go. But let's start off the night properly. We start off with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We have, let me try and remember everyone that was in this match. LA Knight versus Jey Uso versus Carmelo Hayes versus Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. And I'm forgetting one more.
Want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Chad Gable.
There we go, yeah. Chad Gable. 6 men vying for the briefcase that gets them a shot at a title. And I say a title because I don't know if that whole, is it only exclusive to the world title? Because of the whole Austin Theory situation. I don't know what their I don't know how you would describe it, but they're sort of
You,
I
you know
can't.
how I would
How
You
would
know
you
how I
describe it?
would describe Austin Theory cashing it in on the United States Championship a couple of years ago. I would call that a Vince McMahonism. We're in a different world now. This is Triple H with the book and the pencil in his hand. Jack, going into this, did you have a favorite of who you wanted to win?
So as per usual, my dad and I did our like pre-date discussions, like pre-event discussions and predictions, and I had said Carmelo Hayes as like my prediction of who I thought was gonna win it because in my mind I was like it's a young guy that you can put the briefcase on and use that year to really build him up to really you know uh, do a lot of character work with him with that briefcase, and
Yeah.
you could even make a story out of like him holding it for a while and even if he like cashes in unsuccessfully, I felt like there was like a way to go with that, because a
Yeah.
lot of times it feels that way where some people are just like you can't put a briefcase on someone because they'll automatically lose it, but it's like they've kind of been doing that more in the past couple of years where it's like they want to put it more up in the air, kind of like the Royal Rumble where it's like you're not guaranteed to win the match just because you won it. It's like same thing with the briefcase. Not every cash in is going to be successful.
That's interesting, Jack, because we've had so many failed cash ins in the last like 5 years, but they've been able to like manage the numbers such that they can still say on commentary that it's almost a surefire win because the numbers still are in favor of the ones who have successfully cashed it in. They still have some percentage that they tout like 80% of cash-ins have been successful. Yeah, but they need to skew that data a little bit more if we want to make it even more unpredictable.
Yeah. But what about you, sir?
Hey, yeah, I was going into the match. I'm rooting for Andrade, like super dark horse pick. But this guy, Jack, I think you can make a 1 hour compilation of his like "I'm standing by your fireplace, telling you how special I am" vignettes from both companies he's been a part of. Like they're doing with him what AEW was doing with him, what WWE were doing with him before he left.
Yeah.
It's almost like they are aware and they're parodying themselves. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I
So I'm
know.
like, please give him something to like make me care about him because he's so good.
Yeah, my dad kind of felt the same way where he was thinking Andrade or I think it was Andrade or maybe Uso. I think was like who he was thinking was gonna win.
Jey Uso could also benefit from having something that helps make me care about him.
Yeah, and like as we've seen from the past couple of Money in the Banks, we've seen a lot of people complain about oh well, uh, what's it called the people in this match don't really seem like they're competitors, but it's like that's supposed to be the whole point is whoever gets that briefcase gets elevated, and you try and work with them to get them to that point. But like you said, we've seen so many failed cash-ins where it's like it's kind of hard to like buy into that now.
Yeah, I'll never forget somebody. I forget who said it, but I'll never forget what they said. They just sort of were like talking about the storyline implications of the Money in the Bank, and somebody said, "I remember when the Money in the Bank was called the Intercontinental title," and I'm like, "Dang, the Intercontinental title was that guy who was on the rise, surefire shot, given a strong reign, he was going to go places," and I was like, oh my."
Yeah, I even saw someone in the lead up to this saying that like that they'd been thinking that WWE should do away with the Money in the Bank briefcase for like a while.
So I want to bring that point up again when we get to the end, but what'd you think of the match, Jack?
I thought it was pretty good. I liked a lot of the chaos in this match as Money in the Bank usually brings. Got a lot of chaos like there was I think Andrade hit like did he hit no, I don't think he hit the sunset flip. I'm trying to remember what it was that he did. I know there was one point where like he went for like a springboard leg drop. Or no, I
Uh-huh.
think someone hit the. I forget if he was hitting or someone hit on him, but like the landing looked pretty brutal.
Yeah, he hit a springboard leg drop on somebody who was hanging off the ladder. That looked brutal. There was a Spanish fly with Carmelo Hayes onto a ladder, a springboard Spanish fly. And then there was the sunset flip, the
Yeah,
good old classic sunset flip.
Yeah, and then was it in this match? Was this the one where Gable suplexed was it LA Knight through the table on the outside?
He suplexed LA Knight over the ropes outside the ring onto a waiting table. Also, Jack, he suplexed a German suplexed a ladder onto somebody who was behind them.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That was hilarious.
That was hilarious.
But at the same time, like as I'm trying to go through my head, it's like I feel like I didn't see as much of like certain people in this match. You know, like I felt like I didn't see a lot of Jey Uso at times, and then my dad pointed out that like he felt he didn't see Drew McIntyre a whole lot in this match.
Yeah, I agree. They popped up later. And also, Jack, I was sort of tracking like who was sort of beating up who. It seemed like they had really paired off, that there were less sort of combinations happening. That Andrade really was just sort of going after Carmelo. That LA Knight was really kind of like interacting with Chad Gable, you know?
Yeah.
For one reason or another. LA Knight with a neck breaker onto Chad Gable onto a ladder standing on its side. Oof.
Yeah, that looked brutal. But the biggest talking point is the finish, and more specifically, the winner.
EJ Uso, he climbed the ring. He had his hands on the belt. Yeet. He's going to get it. Yeet. This is it. His crowning moment. The man's lost so many, singles championship matches. He's going to yeet this in the bank. Or is it money in the yeet? I forget.
Yeah,
While I'm figuring that out, what's happening underneath the ladder, Jack?
As he's going up to get that briefcase, we see Drew McIntyre getting a ladder and throwing it at Jey Uso to stop him from getting the briefcase.
Pardon me, Jack. Drew McIntyre yeeted a ladder to Jey Uso.
Yeah, he throws that thing at him, knocks him down, and Drew McIntyre climbs up and wins the Money in the Bank briefcase.
He sure does. He called it. He told them. I think he was mouthing to the camera. I told you. I told you.
Yeah. Our opinions on this will likely be saved for later in the night. Spoiler, but there was some thoughts I had when this happened.
And Jack, when all is said and done, my big question for you is, we saw AEW Forbidden Door as well. It had a ladder match. We'll talk about another ladder match later. What I really want to know, Jack, is who had the better ladder match in the week. Dun dun dun.
All right. Well, as we move forward, we have Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. Sir, what were your thoughts on this one?
I don't like Braun Breaker. I wish I liked Braun Breaker. I can't get behind him for one reason or another, and I really spent a lot of this match trying to figure out why. What do you think of him?
So I remember when NXT initially made that change, I tuned in for the first night. And so, I got to see a lot of some of these talents get like introduced for the first time. And I remember Braun Breaker being introduced. And I'll never forget how confusing his like introduction was. Because they had to like interrupt LA Knight backstage. And he came off like really awkward. Like it was like a really weird introduction, at least in my opinion. And then he goes out, has a match with LA Knight, who, by the way, is having a match later that night in the main event for, I think it was like the NXT title. And like he beats LA Knight despite that. And then he has like a stare down with Ciampa at the end of the night. And I don't know, similar to what you were saying, it's like something was like off about the whole thing. And so it's like I've watched a bit of him, but it's like I struggle to connect the way I've seen other people connect with him,
I've heard people say, oh, he's great. Oh, he has a great look. But I don't, and I'm a superficial guy. I don't see it. And this was, young guy, old seasoned vet, I don't know. I tried. But I'm like, I don't know if I like the barking. He's a talented wrestler, and I'm trying, Jack, and I'm trying not to compare him to Scott Steiner. But Scott Steiner was one of a kind.
Yeah. I mean,
but honestly, steal from anybody. Like, you know what I'm thinking, Jack? Like, do they want him to be like a safe Scott Steiner, or do they want him to be the Scott Steineriest Goldberg they can get out of him? You know?
Yeah. I will say I like the speed he has. Like when he was running those ropes, I've seen a lot of different spots like that where like he runs those ropes pretty fast. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I definitely liked a lot of different points in this match. You know, like I liked, Zayn really having to like maneuver his way around to like really avoid some of what Braun was throwing at him. I didn't really like the finish all too much. I will admit, it just felt very like out of place and like if like made the match kind of end on a sort of flat note to me. But it was like I did like a bit of the match, but I don't know. I wasn't as invested in it as like previous Sami Zayn title defenses.
No, me neither. And I didn't think Braun had a chance. I'm trying to think of what the finish was. I think it's a haluva kick, like out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, I think Braun was going for a spear, and then you get like this awkward like Zayn was supposed to like kick him in the face as he went for that spear, but like it's off, and so he like they try and like make up with it. Like Braun kind of I think he like staggers to the corner, and then that's when Zayn hits him with the haluva kick to retain. I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. I can't remember, but it
I'll tell
was
you
a
what.
bit flat
Yeah.
in my opinion.
You and I talked about like Sami Zayn beating Chad Gable. I think he should have lost it in that triple threat. Like that was like the best place to get it off of him, right? You don't even have to beat him. But here, Sammy wins, and I felt good about that. I'm like, oh, good. We didn't put it on Braun. And maybe one of my things, Jack, is I don't like his spear. I'm like, I like spears. I like Rhino's gore. It's like 8 reasons why I like him out of 10, right?
Yeah.
So, like, calling me, I'm a connoisseur. I'm a snob, Jack, for spears. I don't like his. I don't think I've seen one I like yet.
I will say that Frankensteiner from like the top rope was pretty crazy. I was like, I didn't know, but like he had that in him, Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I kind of agree. Where I was just like, I don't know, and it was especially funny seeing everyone's reactions online to like Braun losing, where it's like they're calling Sammy Hogan. They're complaining about the title reign and all that, and I'm just like, I don't really see it, and like my dad didn't. Like my dad doesn't really like Sami Zayn, but he didn't really mind it too, because my dad never likes it when someone just showed up and is automatically winning titles so soon. So like he didn't really.
So
mind
like
it
imagine. So I think about Kurt Angle winning the world title in his first year. Think about Lesnar winning it as quickly as he did. He's not Lesnar. He's not Angle. Neither is Carmelo Hayes. Both these guys could take the loss, learn from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that bothered by that.
Yeah.
You know what he did? There was a spot where after he does something big on Sammy, he starts doing push-ups. That's Scott Steiner. I'll tell you what, we can take all the best parts of Scott Steiner, but he's missing some big ones.
Mm.
Y'all
You should call Sammy
Y'all talking about Sammy Hogan?
Sammy Hogan. You just were saying, Jack. You were just saying,
And
brothers.
to that, I just quickly have to say I find it fun. Like I told my dad this, because I really enjoy Sami Zayn. I've always let it be known, but like I find it funny that people are not only using that for him, but like so many other people right now, like giving them that Hogan label. But yet throughout his 3-year title reign, I didn't see anyone complaining about Roman holding that title forever, beating all these different people. It was like only people you ever heard complaining was you and I on this podcast going, can he just drop the belt already? Can we?
Hey, we were saying
already?
it. We were saying the thing. Hey, yo, man, how many times is it going to be Brock Lesnar? If it's not Brock Lesnar, who's it going to be?
Yeah, like
I mean, it took a guy to come back into the company. You know what I mean? There was a point where it was literally no one. We needed to roll out the red carpet for Cody Rhodes.
I remember after WrestleMania, I think it was, oh gosh, which one was it? Was it 37? Where he beat Danielson and Edge, where you and I literally started trying to figure out who was next, and then when he beat Lesnar at 38 in that weird like unification match, you and I were just like, who's even left at this point? Like we were really
now
struggling.
he has both of them.
Yeah, like we started scraping bottom of the barrel type stuff, like going like, who's next? You know, we went months without him defending. It was like, I find it funny that no one complained there, but like Sami Zayn has a 90-day title reign with a mid-card title, and they're out here calling him Hogan. I'm just like, I don't think these people know what Hogan was like. You know, I didn't live through that, but I know people who have, and it's like, I don't think you guys really lived through it. And like a part of me, I kind of feel like those AEW fans who were like, you only started watching wrestling in 2021, so you don't know about the struggle from the years before. And it's like, I think I start having that sort of mindset when I hear people bringing stuff up like that, because I'm like, you weren't there to watch, you know, all these different like title reigns go on forever. Like, who remembers Dean Ambrose's title reign with the U.S. title that he did, like, he never defended, but he held it like almost like 200, 300 days. I can't remember. It's like, that's a title reign.
That's not even a Hogan stretch. That's just the Vince McMahon forgot what he had.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. I just found that funny. I was like, you're complaining about a title reign that's only gone on for 90 days, and they're talking about, oh, not everyone needs to have a year-long reign. He hasn't even held it for a year. It's only been since WrestleMania, you know. It's like, I can understand if people don't like him. I can understand if people wanted Chad Gable to win, you know, but it's like, I just find it hilarious that, like, there's this many people complaining.
What does your brother want to show me? Oh, my. For the listener at home, Jack's brother just showed me a Photoshop masterpiece for SummerSlam. If you follow recent news, Rhea Ripley's back, and she and Liv are going to fight for custody of Dom. It's 2002 all over again, Jack.
Oh, man. But I will say, if anyone supports the people that are complaining about Sami Zayn title run, it's Mr. Solis, because as you've heard from the past couple of months, Mr. Solis is like, hey, let's mix things up. I don't mind someone dropping the belt so quickly.
Heck yeah. Let's bring it back to 1999 when a guy would win it on Monday and lose it on Thursday. They would advertise pay-per-view matches, Jack, where the card is changing constantly because the belt keeps changing hands. I bet those guys like Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, The Godfather, Goldust, they have reigns that lasted days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, bring in the Kane title run. Win it on Sunday, lose it on Monday the next day.
Run it like a story mode on WrestleMania 2000.
Hey, I will say, you could get some interesting stories, and there are people who have said, like, there's a couple of interesting, like, matches, or not matches, but really moments that could have happened if they did something like that, you know, where it's like a guy wins it only to, like, lose it very quickly after, but you still get the moment from it, you know?
Absolutely. This company is built on moments.
Yeah. But moving forward, we'll end that little rant and move forward to not our next match, but our next segment.
Oh my, speaking of moments, Jack.
Yeah. And I got a moment for this one. So John Cena comes out, and as a joke, because I'm watching along with, you know, good friend Ricky, as a joke, I don't think we had. Wait, did we have the sound on? No, we had the sound on, but the thing was, I saw John Cena come out, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a pretty long segment, because I remember the one that happened in Australia, I think it was, you know, where like he had that really long talking segment with like Grayson Waller. So I was like, oh, this is gonna go for a pretty while. Let me just go get something to eat in the kitchen real quick. And before I did that, and before he even showed the towel or the back of his shirt, I joked around with Ricky and said, oh, he's coming out to announce his retirement. If only I could take those words back.
You know, he did it in London, too. Remember? He was like, hey, we should get WrestleMania out here in London. That was like a segment that went on forever and didn't go anywhere. So, like, I hear you, Jack. You're like, I'm going to get me a snack. My man's going to ramble, share his thoughts, and connect with the crowd. And boy, did he.
Yeah, boy, does he. And I mentioned the towel. The towel says, I forgot what the towel says. Does it say my time is almost up?
Last time is now.
Yeah, and then I forget what the back of his shirt says. I'm trying to remember, but I can't.
I think it says, in a moment you can't see me, or like it makes a you can't see me joke.
Yeah.
Because he's gone. Because he's leaving, Jack.
Yeah. So he comes out and announces that he is going
So
to retire.
it's a horrible shirt, by the way. Like so bad.
Yeah, well, can't say John Cena's ever been known for his shirts other than the colors of them.
He's he's entering the Royal Rumble January 2025. Or actually, I don't know if he said he's entering the Royal Rumble,
He
but at
just
the
said that was
event,
gonna. He did say that was gonna be his last Royal Rumble, but that could just be
that
the
could
event.
yeah, yeah, and that WrestleMania is going to be his last as an in-ring competitor. A lot of people misunderstood that to mean he's going to retire at WrestleMania, but he's anticipating wrestling through 2025.
Yeah.
And that December 2025, he's going to hang up the boots, and from now on, when we see him, he's going to be in a suit and tie. Jack,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that?
It feels kind of unreal in a way because it's like for the past. I mean, ever since really like I want to say like 2016, when he missed WrestleMania 32 of injury, it's like the whole John Cena retirement has kind of been on people's mind and it's been like a talking head, but it's like it was like one of those moments that like you weren't gonna like feel it was real like until it happened, like that's kind of like how I feel, especially as someone who grew up watching John Cena. I've said it before on this podcast, right next to Bryan Danielson. I consider him probably in that conversation for my personal goat. It's like it's those two, and it's just like
Yeah.
it just feels like surreal to see like a guy that I pretty much watched almost all my life. He debuted the year I think he debuted the year after I was born. So it's like, the man's basically been wrestling for almost all my life, and it's like to think that it's finally coming to an end is something that you knew was gonna happen, but you're just like, man, it's actually happening. Like that's the way I feel, and like a couple of my other friends feel, where they're just like, man, it's actually happening.
I share your sentiments, Jack. I remember exactly where I was, whose friend I was visiting when we watched WrestleMania 20, and he beat Big Show for the U.S. title, the first championship he held in WWE. It's just like a lot to process when you think about a guy whose career is coming to an end that you saw begin. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm definitely watching wrestling. I saw him answer Kurt Angle's open challenge live on SmackDown when it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's this guy? Why is he getting so much on Angle? Oh my, right? And get this, Jack. Fun fact. I saw him debut against Angle on that SmackDown, but Jack, I watched him on this random reality TV show before he starts training for wrestling. It was this weird, like, show where it was like Gladiator, but it was in the woods, and he played this guy. He had a character name, and he had this V in his hair. Like he had no hair, he just had the V, and he was shooting paintballs at people. It was like, survive, don't get hit by the paintball. But he would hit people and go, Mark, Mark. And like, when I seen him later, I'm like, he has a very familiar face. And yeah, he's on this stupid reality show with that V haircut he had in OVW. I was like, it's that guy. So it's just really wild and incredible to like, how fortunate are we, Jack? In the thousands or millions of years that this Earth's been in existence, we happened to be around during John Cena's run.
Yeah, like I think I don't know what the exact meme is, but it's like too early to explore the world, or no, too late. Or yeah, I think it's like too late to explore the world, or no, born too late to explore the world, born too early for like flying cars or whatever, born just in time to watch John Cena wrestle.
Yeah. And I wonder, Jack, I wonder who's going to, like in hindsight, who's going to have had the better last retirement tour, him or Daniel Bryan, right? Because Daniel Bryan did something very unprecedented, calling his shot and saying that in a year he is going to bow out. John Cena is doing something very similar. And what I really want, Jack, though, and the Undertaker's watching, Triple H is watching, and they're like, I wish I could have done something like that, right? Hey, Jericho, hey, Jericho, I wouldn't even call him out for copying it,
Oh man, I feel you on that.
We all gaslight him, just go, you know what? This has never happened before. This is the first, you're the GOAT, at starting things. No one's ever done this.
Yeah,
No one will
all
ever
the
do it like
goats, all
you.
the people who are in the goat conversation are retiring, Jericho. You want to. We know you like to latch on to things, Jericho.
Imagine John Cena going out there saying this is it, and he's around thinking, "Hi guys, I'm
Oh
a
man.
current title holder."
And also, you bring it up. I have to mention it. Technically, technically, Danielson's year is up, but yet here he is still like wrestling. I know he's only gonna go part time after this. Like that was his word, but it's like it was supposed to be like, oh, I'm gonna go part time after Double or Nothing. I think he said, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't think any. I think he might have forgot, or he just he's lying to his daughter because it's like he's still wrestling. Pretty often. He was in the Owen Hart. He's gonna wrestle maybe at Wembley. It's like. And hey, I'll take it because I don't want to see that man retire.
I don't think he's forgotten Jack, and I'll tell you why. Because his neck issues are becoming more and more prevalent in his matches. It went from something that you went on and off again, forgetting and remembering, and then it's become like maybe a regular thing, and now it's more than regular,
Yeah,
and it's sooner.
yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. And like you mentioned, it's gonna be interesting to see like who has the better year. Especially because it's like
I think Jericho's gonna have the best year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's gonna get worldwide acclaim for his retirement tour. But it's gonna be interesting to see who are some of the people he has matches with. Got to get some of the young guys in there. Obviously, got to get those one more times. Like Orton in there.
Do a Braun Breaker so he can cut a rap, freestyle rap on him and tell him what's wrong.
Yeah, my dad showed me CM Punk at the press conference was saying he wants one last match with John Cena. He was talking about, I'm going to pull John Cena out of retirement in 15 years. And I was like
he has 15 years left in him?
Yeah, like that was my mindset. I was like, I know he's joking around, but has anyone told you? I don't think you have 15 years left in you to keep wrestling,
I hope the next question was, hey, how's your arm?
Oh man, that's gonna be. I'm gonna make that. I have something to point out in relation to that later with one of our matches. But yeah,
yes, of course.
It's actually the next match. But yeah, but John Cena retirement tour, one last Royal Rumble, one last WrestleMania, presumably one last SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Gonna be interesting to say, sir. What is the match you are most interested seeing in this retirement tour?
John Cena versus Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry. Well, I
believe in Joe Hendry.
Let
John Cena do a stint down in NXT, please.
Yeah. I have another Joe in mind as we're talking about, NXT and TNA. It's impossible. I don't want to say impossible, but it's very unlikely that the two companies work together. But please, for the love of wrestling history, can we please somewhere, it's more than likely going to have to happen in a WWE ring, but can please we just somehow, some way get John Cena versus Samoa Joe for once, because there's no way in the wrestling history books are we going to go down and say that match never happened despite them sharing a company for like a couple of years. It's like you can't tell me
never happened.
I don't think it's ever happened. I will double check Cage Match because those people know everything, but
no, I guess maybe not.
I don't think that match has ever happened. And like I said, when it comes to wrestling history and the history books, there is no way you're going to tell me that this is a match that we never get, The closest we've gotten is a tag match on Raw where Cena and Roman faced off against Joe and The Miz. And 2 live shows that it happened on, like on the house shows. Other than that, they've never faced off anywhere. And it's like, you cannot tell me that we're going to allow this for these two, men to have never matched up one-on-one against each other, even though they shared a company for 5 years.
You know what else I'd like to put out in the universe? All right, so it's Royal Rumble time. And The Rock is going to come back and act like now you're all ready to welcome me into the main event scene, right? It's me versus Roman. This is what you wanted, right? And I want John Cena to come out and go, hey, I believe the score is 1-1. Let's go. 3 times in a lifetime. Got to finish John Cena's story. It was WrestleMania 28, 29. We got to do it again. We got to run it back. We got to know. And then it's like literally like drawing an animal with like meat, just away from the children. Just, hey, over here. Come here.
Yeah,
main event night 1 with Cena Rock 3.
Yeah, everyone's talking about Cena putting over young talent, but he's going to face The Rock again. It's like, you're going to see who's Hogan now.
Oh, my. And now, you know what? Him and Orton, before they both fall apart. Let's run that one back for good old time's sake. And I want to figure out how to get Edge back so you can fight Edge and just get Edge to think about his options.
Oh, man. But, yeah, dream, like I said, would be Samoa Joe somehow getting a match with Cena before he goes. But if we're being in the realm of reality with WWE, I'm trying to think who would be an interesting matchup. I guess Cody one more time, especially with Cody how he is now.
How about heel Cody?
Oh, that would be interesting.
Homelander Cody.
Yeah, that would be interesting, especially because the story you could tell of like Cena like being disappointed that there's another guy who's supposed to be the face of the company, but yet they choose to go down this route when he never chose to go down that route.
Slip into the dark side. Hey, Baron Corbin. It's got to be the one to end it all.
Yeah, Baron Corbin.
And I don't want them to build up Baron Corbin. I don't want them to use him for more time than they already are now. Like, no, I want him to come out of absolute cold. You know what I mean? Like, I want his next match on TV to be against John Cena in 1.5 years.
and like they don't even like do like proper attire. He just goes out like in his broke Baron Corbin attire.
Yeah, and that's sad Corbin.
Oh man, I mean he has to get him back for everything, for the Money in the Bank cash in, for taking his contract. You remember when he was gonna sign the contract to face Roman at SummerSlam, but Cena took the contract. He's got to get back at him.
Book it, you cowards.
Yeah, let's see who really books for the sickos. Do that. But moving forward, gotta finish covering the pay-per-view. We got Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Sir, what were your thoughts going into this match?
Did you remember the extra stipulations on this match? Because I didn't before I saw the video hype package. But Jack, if Seth Rollins loses, he cannot challenge for the title so long as Damian holds it. And if Damian loses, he's out of the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
These are stipulations we didn't need.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And also, I asked about thoughts going into it. When I saw Seth Rollins return and challenged him, my first thought was, okay, what did they give this guy for him to come back this early? Because we all, like you had mentioned during our WrestleMania review, we all saw the state in which Seth Rollins was. We saw how slowly he limped in to make that run in on the second night of Mania. I was like, how is he back already and going to compete for this title?
I'll tell you what, he looked great, and also Damian Priest looked great as well. The last time we saw him, he was hobbling on one leg.
Yeah.
It was nice to see them both, at full capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And, I feel like Damian Priest has really had a turnaround with his title reign, The Jey Uso one wasn't really, how would you say, the most interesting. But he had a pretty well enough turnaround, I would say. All right, we are back. There was a bit of a technical issue. Like I told Mr. Solis, I will fix it in post so you guys won't hear it, the listeners, but there was a bit of a technical issue. So, resuming where we left off, I was saying Damian Priest's title run, it felt like it had a bit of a turnaround, because we remembered his title match against Jey Uso. You and I, sir, weren't really too fond of it, But
no.
it's felt like it's had like a turnaround. Even in the match that was hindered by injury, of course, with against Drew at Clash at the Castle. Even then, we still felt like it was still pretty good. The fact that Damien was able to go on despite his clear like injuries, and it was like this match as well. It just felt like he's really not only I feel like he's flipped the script on a lot of fans who were ready for the reign to end, ready to write him off, as like a very like I don't know if the term paper champion is the right term, but like basically like people weren't buying into him a lot.
No, and I think like the story of Judgment Day and Liv really undermined him.
Yeah.
That he's really taken a back seat. If there's two or three interesting things happening in the Judgment Day, none of them are him. And then just like his match with Drew, he had a good match with Drew. It may have been able to be great, except he got hung up on them ropes, right?
Yeah.
And like you kind of just wonder what could have been. Here he has a match with Seth, who's feeling better, and they have a really good match until it happens, Jack. And goodness, Triple H calls him out on it, calls out the moment, and says how much he feels bad for Damien because they both had an amazing match, but people are really only going to talk about one thing.
Yeah. And of course, that one thing is he's laying there. Seth goes to pin him. 1, 2. The ref says he kicked out, but sir, what happened?
He definitely did it from multiple angles. And one angle, he just looks out,
Yeah.
And
like, that's what Ricky and I thought. We were like, is he concussed? Like what is going on?
Yeah. And Seth looks visibly upset. I think that's an interesting way to go, right? Because they're always going to look visibly upset that not getting the pinfall. But this one, he's really justified. But oh, goodness gracious, if matters weren't confusing enough, here comes old Drew McIntyre with his Money in the Bank contract. Goodness gracious, he's walking with purpose. He's talking, like that old Jim Ross call. And he interjects himself into this match, makes it a triple threat, which has me wondering, did his music not hit on time? Was he supposed to interrupt that count?
Yeah, and I saw a couple people say like, why would like music start playing interrupt a pinfall count and like people tried arguing that it's never happened, this and that, like going back and forth on whether it would have stopped. I present to you Survivor Series, was it 2014 when the Authority was going to win. Seth Rollins was beating Dolph Ziggler, and Sting's music hit, and it was enough to stop the ref.
So you're like a lawyer, Jack. You're like, may I cite a previous incident of a similar nature to set precedent? Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, but so you remember back at the Money in the Bank, when we were covering the men's one, Mr. Solis and I said that we would save our thoughts on Drew winning for a later point. Here is the later point. Drew McIntyre comes in, he cashes in, making it a triple threat. He's trying to get pinfalls in. He's trying to get, the victory. And, sir, what happens?
Well, I think he hit a Claymore. Everything looks to be going his way. This is it, Jack. He said he's going to win the Money in the Bank. He says he's walking out world champion. Who's going to stop him? Who in Toronto, Canada? Oh, my. Who's that jumping out the sky? CM Punk. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Mr. CM Punk shows up and he starts beating up on Drew. He starts beating him with a chair, just doing everything he can to take out the lad.
How about choking him out with a cable for good measure?
Yeah. And it's funny because my dad was like, make sure to tell your viewers to have adequate amount of water nearby for the salt level contents for this episode. And my response to him was, I don't think I have anything left in me at this point.
I have a lot about Mercedes Moné, but I won't divert us any more than we've already been diverted. I was thinking about her a lot this week, Jack, and I was like, gosh, I can start a restaurant with how much salt I've got for that woman.
Yeah, and it's like I just told my dad, I'm like, I don't know what more I can say about this man's CM Punk
Did he
interfering
even
with
take
Drew.
back his bracelet?
Yeah, that was the funny thing. My dad was like, "Did he even get back the bracelet?" And like to me, after this, I just think back to what you said. At I think it was Clash at the Castle, where you were like, "Are we supposed to be cheering Punk while he does all of this?" Like they kind of amended that in the build up by having Drew. Wait, no, it happened afterwards. Yeah, they had Drew bloody him.
Yeah.
So it's like it makes sense that he wants to like get back at him, but it's just like it's like I don't know. You're like torn. It's like I tell Mr. CM Punk to revert back to his promo where he's like, I look at myself in the mirror and wonder, am I the good guy? No, you aren't.
Um, I I think we've jumped the shark for sure. I think, especially since this one came at the cost of a Money in the Bank contract. And if I recall correctly, Jack, does Damian Priest pin Drew McIntyre to
Yep.
retain?
He hits the South
And
of
so-
Heaven for the win.
Looking for the silver lining, Damian Priest lives to fight another day. Just like you and I were talking about. Hey, win's a win, and that guy gets to be champion for a little bit longer. The Drew Punk stuff just keeps on rolling. What I was very surprised by, but pleasantly surprised by, was Seth Rollins' reaction to it. His slow walk towards the commentary table, just seething at the revelation that he lost this match and potentially the opportunity to challenge again at the hands of a man he had very strong opinions about before WrestleMania. I like that they kind of reignited that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is good. This created a story opportunity. How can I be mad at that?
Yeah, and the thing that came to my mind out of this, and we saw on Monday that Damian told Seth, that he would give him another shot because he didn't feel like it was earned, for Seth to lose the opportunity like that. And I was telling my dad, I'm like, what if they do a whole story out of this where Rollins feels screwed out, McIntyre feels screwed out, so they somehow forced their hand, forced their way, and to make the match at SummerSlam a bit more compelling, because I was telling my dad, despite his reign having a turnaround, I don't know, at least personally for me, how a match and story is gonna play out with Gunther, who's owed a title shot at SummerSlam. To make it more compelling, you add Rollins and McIntyre, make it a 4-way, and that way you could have Damian get a big retain at SummerSlam.
Ooh.
And then you could have Gunther being like, well, I was screwed out because it was supposed to be a one-on-one before these two fools entered in. And then you have a rematch, the original one-on-one for Bash at Berlin. I think that's after SummerSlam, right?
It is.
Yeah, so you have that, and then you could have Gunther win there.
Hey, how much time do we have left on this episode?
So I'm using a new program. We have unlimited time.
Oh my goodness.
So this instead
Jack,
of being 2 parts, this is going to be as if you combine the two.
Season 5. Oh my. Jack, you just booked NXT Heatwave.
Yeah, funny enough.
That main event for the NXT heavyweight title was a 4-way. A 4-way made in spite of the fact that they had an established one-on-one match that maybe was going to underwhelm. And just out of, just for safety, they added a few foils. I don't know how I feel about that. But I think that, I'm just worried about Priest and Gunther. I hope, they could tell a compelling story, because the story is going to be Gunther's better, in almost every way.
Yeah, and there's literally no way to dispute it.
And I think the more interesting next chapter for Damian is going to be Finn Balor, who they've been playing up having something's going on.
Yeah.
And we got something like that on Money in the Bank when he says, hey, everyone stay out of it. And they sort of linger on Finn. And you're like, so there's Dom and Rhea stuff, but also there's Finn and Damian stuff. So, there's lots of places to go. Where are you going to go? Pick a lane. Just pick a lane there, WWE. They have too many. AEW don't have enough stories. WWE somehow has too many stories.
Yeah. And it's funny because, at the same time during the show, they announced Bad Blood happening in Atlanta. The return of Bad Blood. And so people instantly started, after what occurred, they started booking Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. And I saw so many things. We saw CM Punk say, "Oh, they're trying to book me in a Hell in a Cell match. I'm not doing a Hell in a Cell match." But I saw
I
someone
love.
go, I saw someone
I
go,
love.
"Oh, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a 3 stages of Hell match." I told my dad, and I look at my dad and I go, "Can CM Punk even, like survive or, handle one stage?"
I saw that press conference where they were like, "So this has got to go to Hell in a Cell, right?" And he goes, "Get that fantasy booking stuff out of here." I thought that was an amazing line, Jack, especially because if you think back to MJF and AEW, do you realize their first match together was that dog collar match? Things escalated so quickly. You got to think one of them was like, "Hey, this should be a dog collar match." Like, why didn't they just have a straight up one on one? Because he took his picture with them, as a kid. I want them to have just a straight up wrestling match. That'd be amazing after all of this. I want them to go for the um, collar and elbow tie up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the route that they go.
Hey, hey, it's really annoying that you have Hell in the Cell every October. I mean, just because it's October, we're going to have Hell in the Cell? Bad Blood this October. So you're going to book a Hell in the Cell, right? Because Hell in the Cell happens at Bad Blood.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes down.
Agreed.
I look forward to the inevitable high sodium episode of the Call It Anything podcast when CM Punk beats Drew McIntyre.
Who wins that first match?
I might have to implement a couple of censor bleeps in that episode.
Hey, you know who wins Drew versus CM Punk?
Who?
Mercedes Moné for some reasons.
No, sir, I got you. We're going to do that fatal 4-way at SummerSlam.
Okay.
And Drew's going to win, right?
Yeah.
And then, for whatever reason, right before Bad Blood, like on a random episode of SmackDown before Bad Blood, CM Punk beats Cody for the WWE title, and then they face off champion versus champion. Because we know you love those matches.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Jack. You unearthed that other hang up I have.
Oh, man. But, moving forward, we have our women's Money in the Bank ladder match now. This one contains Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, Zoe Stark, Io Sky, why am I forgetting her name? Lyra Valkyria, and Chelsea Green.
Correct.
What were your thoughts on this one, sir? Who were you thinking was going to win this?
Who was I thinking was going to win this? Tiffany Stratton is that kind of superstar that's made for this kind of match at this point of her career. But I wanted Chelsea Green to win because she's awesome.
Yeah, I had the same thought where I was like, this seems like a good spot for Chelsea to win. She can be comedic enough to hold that belt for a while, hold that Money in the Bank briefcase for a while, have some comedic effect with it, do enough to build her up to challenge for one of the future champions. And plus, especially when it comes to Chelsea, but I think they're also going to be able to do it with the actual winner. I was hoping for someone to just finally hold that briefcase for a while, The women have not been given that, that leisure.
So earlier you mentioned like an idea floating around in the internet wrestling community of getting rid of Money in the Bank. I think Triple H does not like Money in the Bank. He likes King of the Ring. He held a big old King of the Ring, right? And awarded the guy and Queen of the Ring a championship match. So like you definitely see him favor that versus this. How so? He got rid of the men's Money in the Bank as soon as he humanly could.
Yeah.
It's like, saves him the struggle of having to book a guy like Damian Priest has for the year. How do you book a guy who has this thing? It's always lingering. That's out of the question now. It's been all burnt up. But yes, I agree with you, sir. Tiffany Stratton, it adds to her, well, goodness, spoiler, Tiffany Stratton win the whole dang thing. It adds to her character. It's Tiffy time. She's going to walk around with a pretty pink briefcase and be annoying all about it.
Yeah. But what were some entertaining moments for you throughout this match?
Chelsea, period, Green, period. In the beginning, like, I don't even know this because I missed a few SmackDown episodes, but she has a fear of heights. Hilarious. And so she tries Jack to knock the cake. Well, first he tries to jump and reach for it. Amazing, Jack. Like, just like, and like, there are these really wimpy jumps, like, just, eh. And then she gets a ladder and she tries to jump with the ladder and knock down the briefcase. Moments, Jack. This company is built on moments. I love that visual. Trying to, and like, she's like making no effort of actually jumping. She's like, eh. Ah, so good.
Oh man, yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of her points. Trying to
Zoe Stark took a few lumps to the old noggin.
yeah, the part I enjoyed, we talk a lot about these newer people, these newer sort of intros to the main roster. A lot of people who are very brand new. How about Lyra Valkyria? Messing up a couple of spots. Giving Io some like nasty landings, and so when Lyra gets caught up in the ladder, Io's like, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you what a receipt is in wrestling," and just starts laying in those kicks.
Oh my. Oh yes.
It was so funny seeing people's reactions to that online where, the typical people who are just like, they see them working stiff and they immediately start coming up with these, they're dangerous, they're not being safe allegations. It's like, those kicks weren't any less dangerous than other kicks we've seen before,
And I love, like, Io in a ladder match or Io in a one-on-one match, those kicks aren't any less devastating.
Yeah.
She only knows how to do things one way, devastatingly.
Yeah, so I thought that spot was hilarious.
Case in point, Michinoku driver onto a ladder.
Yeah, oh man. Zoe Stark was doing a bunch of springboard drop kicks as well,
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to remember other spots, but like I can't remember too many. I know there's the big spot that closes the match with Chelsea taking that trip through the tables.
On the ladder, gonna win. She's pushed off the ladder to the outside, onto two waiting tables. Moments, Jack. Moments.
Oh man. But Tiffany wins that briefcase. And like you said, it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully she gets a long run out of it. She definitely has an interesting enough character to get a lot of, momentum out of that thing.
Yeah. And she had a nice interaction with Trish Stratus, our host for the evening. Just really kind of like undermining her legacy and, playing up Tiffy time. And interesting, though, that Tiffany Stratton is like, a blonde superstar of, lots of different qualities that Trish Stratus had, that both did and was celebrated for 20 years ago. And, but an interesting passing of the torch just wasn't, but an interesting moment.
Yeah, and I especially thought it was, like, interesting because, like, the day before I had just seen someone say that, like, what if WWE tries to set something up between Trish and Zoe, because the last time we saw the two, or the last time we saw Trish, Zoe had turned on her. You remember in that Becky Lynch cage match?
You want a Hogan comparison? Let's try to book Trish Stratus back onto this show, brother.
Oh man,
business is down. You need me, brother.
Hey, you want to talk about Hogan? Let's look at our main event, which has nothing on the line, but is still our main event.
It's the Bloodline. It's the new tribal chief. And it's the Universal Champion. Sure, I mean, this has got a lot of story and build going on.
Boo.
It's, you know what this is, Jack? I'm going to make a comparison at the end. Remind me, hey, what was that comparison you wanted to make? But this is the new Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Tamatonga, Tongaloa, and Jacob Fatu. What are you doing here? Yeah. Facing off against Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, or KO. and the undisputed champion Cody Rhodes. Actually, Tonga Loa is going to stand outside in his suit. He's going to come into play later.
He's gonna come into play later. What are your thoughts on this one, sir?
I tell you what, Jack, I wasn't as miffed by it being the main event, right? I had a lot of hope, just like for the storyline progression. The bloodline is supposed to be this, this treacherous body of guys, but have they done anything of note? This is their first opportunity, Jack, to like really stake a claim at doing something special. Because what they've done is they beat up an old man, Paul Heyman. Like, have they really been causing any kind of chaos?
That kind of sounds like Damage Control when they started off.
Well, listen, that's why I'm like, yeah, beat these guys. Beat Cody Rhodes. Come on now. I'm going to say it now, Jack. This felt like the Nexus versus the Avengers, like a lineup of superstars that were going to beat the Nexus, and they did. And I'm like, don't beat the Bloodline now. Who cares? Who cares what happens next with them if you beat them now?
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the match, sir?
I was loving the Toronto crowd laying into Solo. Solo, right? Like, say what you will. That crowd told Solo how they felt, and I think that means he's doing something good. Because they were censor Solo. Censor Solo. They ain't saying censor. They're saying something else that's 2 syllables.
Yeah, and they were also, showcasing Fatu a lot.
Fatu was doing this thing. I don't know if you noticed, Jack. He did one move and then taunted throughout the entire match.
Yeah,
move,
I noticed
taunt,
that a bit.
Move, taunt, move, taunt.
Yeah, this match was also highlighted by my dad learning the real age of Tama Tonga, and then learning like the relations between the families and all that, like who he's related to, how he's related to people. But it was funny because my dad thought he was actually pretty younger, and I was like, no, Tama and Tonga are both, pretty old and have been doing this for a bit.
Oh, yes.
And then he was interested to learn that Tama's technically an original Bullet Club member.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, definitely was a lot of a learning session for my dad to learn about a lot of these different guys. I mean, technically, whenever the bloodline's brought up, it turns into a learning session out of default, trying to figure out who are these people, who are they coming from, and why is there so many of them?
So, Jack, the same people who want to book that Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, that Sammy Hogan, right? I bet these are the same people, Jack, who want to tell you that Zillow, the other Fatu in the Indies, he's going to come up. My friend, I text during wrestling, he tells me about the other members of the Samoan Kingdom tribe dynasty that, like, he's made aware of. He goes, he can come in. He can come in. I go, stop bringing them in, at least before you know they're any good. Zillow.
This is literally a current Marvel MCU type of situation.
Here's how you're going to bring in, right? Trying to think of like super C tier, D tier Marvel hero, right? Like, oh, stop.
And you want to know what's funny is we can go back all the way to like season 1 because Roman's reign started during season 1.
Yes.
And I specifically remember bringing up the fact that, hey, a lot of people are talking about the Usos' brother, which would go on to be Solo Sikoa joining, and you said the same thing. You were like, why bring in a guy who's not that good right now, and like, at least we're...
Hey, and listen, I was talking about how like he gets that big reaction from the crowd. Is he any better, right? Like, what was his last high-profile match? It was Cena at Saudi like a year ago?
Yeah.
Like, what has he done since?
Yeah,
right?
And not only
he's
that...
been in the corner forever and a half because, right? What can you trust him to do?
Yeah.
You trust him to do a low blow.
Yeah, and, we talked about Damian Priest and Gunther at SummerSlam, worrying about that. We got Solo versus Cody looking like it's going to be on the horizon, and everyone's just like, I don't know about that.
I'm really excited at how good the bloodline is currently, because you got to think they're doing something right, Jack, when the crowd chants, we want Roman, as loud and as frequently as they do. Like, they're doing something right that they make you want him back. Oh my goodness, Jack. This is like the Dom stuff and this stuff. It just feels so good to follow along and and anticipate the next part.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see where this goes. But
Jack, are you familiar with Kane's return from 99 or the year 2000? There's a YouTube video that maybe you've seen on your rabbit hole trips down YouTube, right? Where DX, the Radicals, they're beating up Foley, The Rock, in a very one-sided beatdown on Raw, right? It's all chaos. Stephanie and Tori, not that Tori, are on commentary, and
oh
the lights go down, and the light comes up, and Paul Bearer is standing proudly in a red jacket on the Titantron, right?
yeah,
Kane's coming back to tear people up. I want that to happen, but with Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. That's why I wanted them to win. I need them to win. I need there to be this big schmaz. Who's gonna help? I think Jay gets involved. I think Jimmy comes back, but it's all too much, and they can't do it until lights go down. And a clean shaven, drop 10 pounds, Paul Heyman stands proudly at the Titantron.
yeah, going to be very interesting to see how they book this. But talking about the finish of the match, because
Yes, sir.
we have to mention it. You know, I just want to mention the ending spot, because it was a night where there was just a lot of different sort of mess ups. Very much throwback to was it Clash at the Castle, where it seemed everyone was having some sort of thing happen to him, you know, with the rope.
Oh, yes.
This one, it was just, for whatever reason, people were not on their A game. Fatu's going crazy on the outside, you know.
Yes, he is.
And then I think does he get put through the table? Does he put someone through a table? I forget what it is, but people are going back and forth. Everyone's going back and forth fighting each other. And then we have Cody facing Solo inside the ring. He's beating up on Solo. Tonga Loa comes in to help. And no, it's KO. KO's facing Solo. And what happens, sir?
No, KO's facing Tama. He's got Tama in the package pile driver.
Yeah, there we go.
Tongaloa goes in to low blow him. Misses. He misses, but KO is actually going to maybe act like he just got hit below the belt. But Tongaloa goes in for another one that looks a little more convincing. It's funny that he's going to hit this package pile driver on Tama, because when he hit the low blow, he actually hit Tama square in the head.
Yeah,
But
funny enough, I didn't even register that he was going for the package power driver until replay. I was like, oh wait. I was like, what the heck? I was like, they don't let him do that move.
And so, he just happens to be in the worst place he could be. Yeah.
And then that leads to, of course, the finish where Fatu and Sikoa both beat up on Cody. Fatu hit that whisper in the wind out of nowhere to get Cody to stop the third crossroads. Which, once again, okay, it does a good job of establishing Solo as a threat, but as you and I have mentioned, why does Cody keep doing the 3 crossroads? You know, it seemed like it was a big thing to do 3 on Roman, and then he did 1 on AJ, and you're like, okay, we're going to a normal where it's only going to take 1, you know, like 3 is reserved for the biggest of guys, and then he does it on Solo, he does it on Logan, you know, it's like,
I heard he resented Logan so much that he wanted to hit 3. So maybe he has the same fiery frustration with Solo. Imagine, Jack, you've been fighting this family for over 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do something big, right? But yes, it was the third one that was his downfall, because that puts him in position for that Jacob in the wind.
Yeah. And then Solo pins the champion.
Yes, he does. And doesn't fall to the Nexus fate of the Nexus.
Yeah. Overall, what'd you think of the night, sir?
I like Solo's song. You know, there's a lot of salt thrown at Def Rebel's direction. I'm taking it all, Jack, and like this is part of that. You know, what do I think of the night overall? It wasn't the best show I saw this week. There were moments. This is a company built on moments, right, Jack?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it left me. I watched it. I felt accomplished. I don't. Here's an interesting review. None of the matches on this card are going to make it on my top 10 for the year.
Yeah, definitely felt the same way. Um, Probably won't be looking back at this show too much, Like when I consider what were some of the best shows from the year, don't think it makes that, Think other WWE shows make it above it, Think a couple of other AEW, obviously me with my Japanese wrestling, there's a couple shows there that are gonna make it over.
Did you watch NXT Heatwave?
I watched a couple matches from it.
I watched Heatwave, Jack, and walked away from that show feeling even more entertained than Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same way. I especially enjoyed Obafemi versus Wesley. Really enjoyed that match.
So, like, as far as what's going on in WWE, like Dom and Rhea, whatever happens, right? Like, it wasn't on this show, and like that's what I'm looking forward to. The Wyatt Six, we haven't talked about it all, right? Like, There was no mention of them here, so I go, I'm really excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we done, and looking forward to SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Which hopefully is more than 5 matches.
Yeah. Definitely, I would definitely love to see if for those big 4, they start extending them more than 5,
No, SummerSlam's about to be 2 nights in a year or so.
Yeah, so I hope for, more matches. Not too many, though. I do like the sort of short length. It keeps the energy going,
Did you see the Triple H comment about long shows?
No.
So they talked about, this was a short night, right? And that they've been consistently doing those short cards, 5 matches, 2.5 to 3 hours. And he says, "Hey, I've been on the main event of shows that went 6 and 7 hours. I'm sitting in the locker room going, Jesus, am I going to walk out to silence because that crowd is dead because we burnt them out with 7 hours of event, right?"
Yeah.
So it's something to be mindful of. And then when he's done talking, they're going to ask the next question. He just cuts them off and goes, "Hey, don't make that a big deal. I wasn't talking about anybody else. I was just talking about our shows."
Yeah, which
and everyone starts laughing because they're about to go, Triple H drags AEW for their super long shows. He goes, hey, we had shows that long too.
Yeah, I was going to say, again, you saw how at the beginning of this episode I talked about people people not being here during the dog days, people who only just barely became fans came back to this and don't know things. They weren't there for WrestleMania 35 going into the next day over there in New Jersey, They weren't there for the freaking 6-hour long manias. It's like they don't know what it was like. I mean, if you go back to the very start of this podcast and, when the pandemic was happening, you hear Mr. Solis and I saying, thank goodness they're starting to dial it back a bit on like these super long shows with a ton of matches that drain you. Good thing they're making. I think you and I were the biggest supporters of night 2 Mania being added, where we're just like, yeah, give us 2 nights instead of one packed night, where the crowd's dead by the 5th match on the card.
And in doing this, Jack, they've also made SmackDown and Raw way more like circumstantial than like they've ever been, because you get title changes, title defenses on the Raws that happen. They're still in the same town, so it's like, let's make all of these shows must see and must watch. And I'm like, dang, they got me watching SmackDown again.
Yeah, definitely like a lot of the changes. It's helped improve things over there at WWE.
Yep. So I wonder, any lingering thoughts about Forbidden Door? I don't think we got to do the whole card, but like, what were standout matches or moments for you, sir?
So obviously you see me wearing the shirt. Got Shingo's shirt. Was most entertained by him and Danielson. Not match of the year contender though. I don't even know if I'd put it up there with like some of the best I've seen from AEW all year. Like which kind of saddens me because I love both guys and was like had a lot of high expectations, and maybe that's what got me was the high expectations, and also again the whole energy thing. It's like I've been trying to improve like my sleep schedule a lot. So it's like I've been waking up earlier, going to sleep earlier. So it's like when I was
That's
trying
good.
to watch Forbidden Door last was it Sunday?
Yeah.
I was like I was just kind of sitting there and I was just like, man, I'm struggling to make it through this. Like I by the time Swerve and Osprey, well no not Swerve, wait, it was Swerve and Osprey, yeah.
Yeah.
By the time that finished, I immediately like shut off my computer and went to bed. Like that's how it was. Like I was kind of drained, so maybe that like played into it. But then it was like even today and yesterday, I was rewatching some of this stuff, and it was like I don't know, like none of it was capturing me the way others have. Which again, that's a big thing I always say is this is just how I feel. I'm not telling people that their opinions are wrong. This is my own. So it's like it's kind of like how you and I were talking about Danielson and Osprey back in at AEW Dynasty, where I was like, I don't know, I'm just not seeing things the way people are, currently. Like I'm not as invested at times. I'm not as
You know what's
blown
funny?
away at times.
It's funny you should say that because on Instagram, I have a teacher buddy who messaged me, actually sent me a picture of his son, his baby son, watching Money in the Bank. Because he just started watching wrestling again. He tuned in the Money in the Bank. He says, hey, the boy is watching his first Money in the Bank, and he's cute standing in front of the TV. And I said, hey, that's amazing. And it was a pretty good card, too, huh? He goes, it was. And, like, he just had I said it was a pretty good card. But really, Jack, I thought it was a pretty okay card. But I think if you watch as much wrestling as him, right, or my buddy who texts me about Zillow Sokoa, Zillow Fatu, like, they don't watch as much as us. So they may be able to enjoy this more than we can.
Yeah,
We're cursed, Jack.
I'll definitely say that I agree with that take a lot of times because it was the same reasoning I had behind Danielson and Osprey, where I was like, people are calling it the best AEW match, the best match, this and that, and I used that exact same reasoning with you, where I told you, is it the best Bryan Danielson match I've ever seen? Is it the best Will Ospreay match I've ever seen? I said no to both questions. Maybe to some people, because it's their first time viewing. Like, for example, Marco flew out to Colorado to go spend time with cousins, and out there,
Right.
him and our other cousin watched it, and, he's only just getting back into wrestling, so he probably hasn't seen a ton of AEW, hasn't seen a ton of Will Ospreay, so they they really enjoyed it, they were blown away by it, but me, I'm just like, I don't know, like maybe it's just fatigue, especially after the year Ospreay had last year, it's like,
Oh, my.
maybe it's just fatigued and like it's personal fatigue, where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like I'm not as invested, I'm not as blown away at times, it's like,
Yeah. No, and Jack, it's not even these guys are like taking for granted both men's careers, right? Recent or otherwise. People came out of that Danielson Osprey match saying that it was the best match fought on North American soil. That was something that was literally said and shared. And I'm like, Kurt Angle versus HBK WrestleMania 21 also happened on American soil. But I when it comes to Danielson versus Shingo, I thought it was the most forbidden door match, right? And what I was like really catching myself realizing was that there were a couple of matches, and this was like maybe the least forbidden of all the doors. There was a couple of rematches, right? You got Okada and what's his name, Tanahashi, right? You're like, okay, this is a nice return to a longer story, right? But like you have Moxley and Naito, it's like rematch. You had
and
Swerve and
that's a
Osprey,
recent rematch.
and you had Swerve and Osprey. You're like, that's not even forbidden. You had Orange versus Zack Sabre Jr. They're calling back to last year, and you're like, there isn't a lot of like super exciting matchups that I think we were used to, like Claudio coming out of nowhere,
Yeah,
like yeah.
and funny enough, we talked about Money in the Bank being like retired. Like a part of me was like thinking to myself, I'm like, do they need to like take a break from the Forbidden Doorness? Because it's like we've seen CML come up on AEW this year. We've seen so many like New Japan interactions happen. It's like, do we need to take a break from doing that?
Yeah.
Just, like focus,
It's
like
not
each
as-
company focus on each other. To to create like this breath of fresh air, so that when it does happen again next year, that it'll be something to like look forward to, especially because
Yeah.
not a lot of New Japan guys showed up, and if they were in multi-man matches, and that was my thinking.
Right.
And then what gets announced next year, right before Wrestle Kingdom? It's all these companies coming together for, I don't even remember what they called it.
Wrestle Dynasty.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, interesting, but we'll just have to wait and see how it goes,
Yeah. I was looking forward to Danielson Shingo the most, and did it meet my expectation? It kind of like I left. I was immediately taken out of it when he hits that suplex that suplex outside, right?
Mhm.
The neck breaker outside. It's early in the match. The doctor rushes to him. The referee rushes to him, and he starts, "Oh, my neck, right? My neck, brother." And I'm like, we're still. That could be in the Osprey match. It happens in the end. Here it's in the beginning, and it's up. I love Shingo healing it up, right? Saying yes, the crowd goes no, giving them the old arm thing. I like that, and I love like when Shingo like really lays it in. But I think that neck thing, I'm just. I mean, does it hurt or is it not? Are you in peril or are you not?
Yeah, and I think the big issue there is and I think it's why maybe Wrestle Dynasty might be a bit more successful due to its placement. I think the big issue is, especially with Forbidden Door's placement, is that each company, has their own plans. They have their own things that they have to do, and all that kind of gets put on pause when Forbidden Door happens. And so it's like AEW is trying to tell this story with Danielson ever since that Ospreay match with his injury,
Yeah.
But me, it's like, I don't want that in the match with Shingo. That's not what I want at all. But because it's happening in the midst of this, it's like they have to force it in. They have to force Shingo to play a bit more heel, and it's like, and it causes for the stuff that I wanted to see out of that match to not happen as often, not happen at all,
Yeah, I've heard that expression. I've heard that sentiment as well. You were like, I think we got to get rid of this Money in the Bank. I've heard people say, too, we need to get rid of this stupid event because it slows everything down. It makes, you know what I mean? It pushes things off. It muddies the water. Yeah. They're trying to build to All In at Wembley. We got a speed bump. Remember that WWE event? Like, Roadblock?
Yeah, Roadblock. Oh, man.
The match I was the one I walked away with feeling, the one that might make the list, top 10 list, was Zack Sabre Jr. versus Orange Cassidy. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed because Orange Cassidy came in and was like, I'm the best technical wrestler in the world. And Zack Sabre Jr. goes, hey, I'm going to be more funnier and more entertaining than the guy with the glasses, right? Because he's egging him on. Put your hands in your pockets. That's like a real fun bully thing,
Yeah.
And God, the way that he twisted him up at the end, I'm like, hey, that's a visual that's going to stay with me for a minute. How do you think I feel, Jack, though, when there are two matches on that card that end in I can't tap out. I have to yell it.
Yeah.
You managed to do that twice?
Yeah, that's how Shingo's match ended as well.
Goodness gracious.
But, sir, you're telling me that at the end of the year on your top 10 list, you're not going to have Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata versus the Learning Tree?
Hey, I was ready to come in and tell you, Jack, that was better than it was supposed to be. Goodness. How good was that finish? Like, we've talked about it, Jack. How much does a finish play into, like, how much you like a match? That finish, Jack.
Yeah.
The pause. I hate him. You know what I hate? I hate and I love it. His, like, tapping the elbow, telegraphing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love it because that's what me and my brother used to do. Like, literally, I don't know who we saw do it, but we're going for the elbow drop. But the way he hit it, it looked so much better than any Judas Effect Jericho's ever hit. And then he waits to pin him, and then he pins him. I loved it, Jack.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like the rest of the card, I wasn't like too interested in. I ended up
Yeah,
telling you I only ended up buying it because Marco wanted to go half on it, and I was like,
yeah,
I wasn't even invested in it, so I was just like, hey, I'm not paying full price, so I guess I'll do it. But it's like, if not, I would have just skipped it and maybe like tuned in for Danielson and Shingo afterwards. Because it's like, even the matches that like I think back to like last year, if you had told me it was gonna happen, I would have been interested in seeing. It's like even then I wasn't like super interested in them for whatever reason. Like Tony
yeah.
Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. It's like if you told me AEW and Stardom were gonna be working together, I would have been ecstatic. But it's like I don't know. I went into it. I'm like, yeah, the story's good, the match was all right, but just wasn't that impressed. Mercedes Moné and Stephanie Vaquer wasn't as impressed. I mean, it was a good match. Don't get me wrong, but it was just like I wasn't super interested.
Yeah, Stephanie McCoy should have won that match. She looked the better of the two, you know.
Yeah.
Even if she hit a lot of the same moves I've seen her hit in New Japan Strong shows, they all looked great, and the crowd seemed into her. And as I watched Mercedes Moné hit her terrible new finisher, and it's funny that her and Bailey both have new finishers that are terrible. Um, and she gets the win. It occurs to me, Jack, that she walked into that company and told Tony Khan, "I want to be paid like Becky and book like Charlotte. Make it happen, Mr. Money Man."
We got Mercedes Hogan over there.
Yeah, Mercedes Flair. Goodness gracious, Jack. And I hope Britt Baker beats her. Because, like she was clutching her belts. I'm like, good. Please clutch the belts. Look like you have some amount of fear in you that she's coming after you. But she had to do it, Jack. She had to do that. I'm standing up and I'm holding up my belts and like, bless Britt Baker. She's like, I'm leaving. And then the swerve match, Jack. The swerve match was funny. One, it got me thinking, gosh, I need to play Fight Forever because they added swerve and I can pay $10 to play a swerve. Like, that's how good that match was, Jack. It was, oh, gosh, I'm thinking about it again. And then also, it was like they were like, we don't need no Ricochet. We got a swerve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. AEW right now is at a point that Stardom is also at with me where I'm just like, my investment is at an all-time low, and it's not to do with any of the talent. It's more to do with just the direction they're going with a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm starting to feel the way I feel about like TNA at times, where I'm like, there's a lot of talent in this company I enjoy, but they're not doing anything with them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Like, I mean, I've been enjoying Swerve's title reign, but he's only had like 2 defenses.
Yep.
Um,
You got to feel something about your boy coming back on Collision, entering that Owen Hart tournament,
oh yeah,
dancing to the finals. It's your guy.
yeah. I will say, I'm heavily invested in whatever story they're gonna tell because I saw the promo he cut, like one of those backstage promos. And
Yeah.
like, I liked how someone said he's not calling him out by name. He's only like referencing him as he, but he's basically saying like, that man broke into my house. My family had to leave our home, and everyone's here cheering him on. So it's like, it's gonna be that like Drew McIntyre thing where it's like, he's justified in being this angry. He's justified in going after him, but people are going to view him as the bad guy for it.
I'm grateful that Osprey didn't win. Make Swerve's championship, mean something more. We might get Hangman. That's a big match. But just like you said, Jack, I don't know what they're doing with MJF. And I don't know if I want to stick around to find out.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just not a lot that I'm invested in. A lot of people are taking a back seat. A lot of people, like, their stories are very confusing. Like, I'm all for Willow and Chris Statlander's feud, but like, it's weird that Willow wins on the pre-show and then beats Statlander in the Owen Hart tournament to advance. Where I'm just like, wouldn't you have Statlander win one of those matches? Like, it feels weird to see the heel chasing the face, and it really usually the other way around, you know.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like other names that it's like I don't know, they're not being used, they're out injured, you know. So it's like some of the people I'm most interested in, you know, like Eddie Kingston's out injured, Darby Allin's out injured. Uh, Riho made an appearance on Collision just to get injured again, and I was like,
Oh, I
great.
heard about that.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I saw she had a match, and I was like, oh yes, she's back, you know. And you know they were setting up another match between her and Serena Deeb, which you know I remember their first match, so I was excited. And then I opened Instagram hours later, and I click on her story, and I just see she posts her arm in a sling, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me! What is the luck here? I was like, what is
Yeah.
the luck with all that?
Ooh.
But yeah, I will say if there's anything I'm most interested in, it's either matchup of Swerve versus Hangman or Danielson at All In. Either of those matches I'll be interested in.
I was most besides like no Ricochet, besides no Dijak, besides what I was really like most disappointed by was that Nigel McGuinness didn't get up from commentary, slap that man in the neck, and go, "Oi, bruv, let's do this at Wembley."
Yeah, I'm hoping like if Danielson doesn't go on to face Swerve, which I think they're probably going to do Danielson Swerve in Seattle for Wrestle Dream again if they do it in
Ah,
Seattle.
yes.
You know, I
Are
hope
they
they
both
do.
Seattle
Yeah,
guys?
they're both Seattle
Oh,
guys. Darby Allin's a Seattle guy. Yeah, what's it called? Hey, they could also do that if Darby Allin's healed by then. You know, Swerve and him. Hey, I know we said we want Swerve to hold it a bit, but like you talk
yeah.
about making moments. You know, Darby winning it in Seattle could be a big moment. But yeah, I definitely want to see Nigel face off against Danielson. You know, maybe like a double retirement thing. You know, like he comes out. And then there was something else. Oh, you know, you talk about my investment being at an all-time low. You know, again, it's another thing I forgot to mention. It's partly due to who some of these championships are on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sorry, but for the life of me, like I get the story they're telling, you know, and if other people like them, I get it. You know, Tony Khan's not booking AEW just for me, but it's like you can't expect me to be invested when the Young Bucks and Jack Perry are holding titles, and I'm just like I couldn't care less about either of these guys.
I like Jack Perry. Um, yeah, the Young Bucks are an interesting lot. You love like the super safe match that they had at Forbidden Door.
I don't know, Jack Perry. Almost all the pillars from AEW are like how we were describing Braun Breaker, where I'm just like I'm waiting for you
Oh
guys.
my!
I'm waiting for you
Yes.
guys to show me like what other people are saying, why they labeled you the pillars. The only ones that have really shown me stuff are Darby Allin and MJF when he's actually putting effort into things and not going after low hanging fruit.
And he's in a big mark.
Yeah, it's like Sammy Guevara, never been interested, can never convince me. And then
Nah,
Jack Perry,
the revelation, Jack, that we have a whole class of Braun Breakers is amazing. Hey, which matches did you watch of NXT Heatwave?
I watched Obafemi versus Wesley. I caught a bit of the main event, and then I watched Roxanne versus Lola Vice. And that was like another match where I was like, I don't know, despite the story and despite parts of it being good, I wasn't like completely blown away by it.
No, I think it was the weaker match of the night. I think I'm really excited about how the main event ended. And then you know what I loved about the main event? The fact that it was a multi-man match, like played into the finish. They've said it, and they say it all the time. I don't have to beat you, right? Like I can pin any of them. And the fact that it ended the way that it did, with Ethan Page pinning Javon Evans to win Trick's title, it's great. And like there was, I think, a story to be told about Javon Evans and Trick Williams. Like, you know, there was like button heads, even though they're both faces. Love that. Ethan Page won something he doesn't deserve. Love that. Because it's story, because it's character. I thought he should have won at Battleground. I was like, put him on it now. You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen? Trick's going to be real mad and he'll get a rematch, but like, put it on him now. I'm desperate for like a title change, Jack. But then that Obo Femi match, Jack. That Obo Femi match, I could talk for twice as long as the match was. It was amazing, Jack.
Yeah, talk about a true David and Goliath sort of story where it was like every time I thought Wesley was going to get something in, Obafemi was right there to make sure he
It's
did.
true. It's really true. And like he's had two triple threat matches, and I've seen one of them. I still need to see that Dijak one from Stand and Deliver. But it was just really funny that he was able to put down multiple challengers at a time. But Wesley and his heart and his cardiac kid things were too much for Oba at times. But no, no, no. In a moment, Jack, he's gonna chop him in the chest while standing on the ground. And he's in the air. He's just like SWAT.
I will say I saw that Stand and Deliver triple threat. Really liked it. I haven't seen the other one that happened though.
I think yours was better. Yours with Dijak and Josh Briggs.
Yeah, but
And,
definitely enjoyed this one as well.
Mine had Wesley and one of the Gallus guys.
Yeah, but yeah, really enjoyed that match, and
That F20.
yeah, and the main thing I've been telling my dad is like I'm just interested to see like what my year end stuff looks like when it comes to wrestling because it's like
Yeah.
I keep saying it over and over. I haven't been watching a lot of it, you know.
Yeah.
I will say I've been doing more music listening this year than really wrestling.
Love to hear it. I caught up on quite a bit of wrestling in the last week of summer.
Yeah, I mean I've been trying to catch up on different things, but at the same time it's like I don't know, it's tough, you know. Like
Oh, it sure
Stardom,
is.
I mentioned Stardom. It's like I just keep hearing different things, and I'm just
Nah,
like,
you and
I
me,
wish I
Jack,
could
we're
be
married.
interested.
We're Marigold guys now. Woo! Marigold. Io Sky versus that woman she challenged. You know her. And you and me, we're both all Japan guys now. Woo! No, Noah? Are we Noah?
Oh yeah,
Marifu versus AJ Styles is this weekend.
yeah. What's it called? It was funny because I remember when Marigold got announced and all that, and like they showed who was going to be a part of it. Someone that I was following at the time, they had said that they were like, "Oh, I followed this one page on Instagram that was a Stardom fan page, and I was looking for them, trying to figure out where they went, only to find out they switched sides and converted into a Marigold fan page." I was
Yeah.
like, that's absolutely hilarious. And I was telling my dad, I hope at the end of the year people don't think I did that with Stardom and just realize it's like, I don't know, they haven't been doing a lot of stuff that like piques my interest, you know, like AEW. It's like
I've heard a
people
guy on a
after
different
last year-
podcast say the same thing, Jack, that like Stardom's in a real transition period that doesn't seem to end very soon. And New Japan's in the same boat. They just put the belt on Naito, and that man can barely walk.
Yeah, and it
You're
was
like,
funny.
goodness, you ain't got no one else, huh? Nope, you sure don't.
Yeah, and I was telling my dad, I'm like, man, people are from last year are gonna think I switched up completely and went from like Stardom AEW to WWE Marigold. When in reality, it's just like I'm watching all of it, but it's like some things are piquing my interest more than others, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and especially, I mean, you would probably love Stardom. They love flipping belts so frequently. It's like I'm thinking I'm gonna get a good title reign out of the tag champs, out of one of the like the only ones that don't change frequently are the world championships, and that's it. It's like every other title, oh go ahead, change it every month if you want to.
Hilarious.
But yeah, there is a lot going on. We're past the halfway point at this point. We've got into the first 6 months. Got the closing stretch that I'm real interested to see what happens. You know, got a lot of stuff. I mean, TNA's still collabing with NXT. Hope to see a lot of interesting stuff come out of that. Hopefully, you know.
Did you see how Heat Wave ended?
Yeah, there was like a flash of Joe Hendry.
Don't spoil anything about NXT happening right now, but I've been watching NXT for the last few weeks. I'm gonna catch it tomorrow on the replay. And there's you know what match I was really excited to catch? Jada Parker versus Meechin in a street fight last week. It lived up to expectations.
Interesting. Yeah, well, like I said, closing stretch now of 2024, which is crazy to say out loud. You know.
Yep.
But I'm very interested. You know, you got All In, you got SummerSlam, you got
Wrestle Dream down
Wrestle
the
Dream.
line. You got Bash at Berlin.
Yeah.
You got Survivor Series. You got Roman Reigns and lurking.
Yeah, you got the Marufuji AJ match. You got Marigold's event happening that same day. You know.
Yep. We're not gonna watch it all, Jack. We're gonna pick and choose. We're gonna craft a Burger King style watch style. It's whatever. What was Burger King's slogan? Have it your way.
Yeah, I mean that's always been my advice to people when it comes to wrestling. Watch what you like. Don't care what anyone else has to say. Mr. Solis and I have been doing our top tens, and we've never cared what anyone has to say. I'll put matches over others, and people. I won't care what people say. I put Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic as my number one match from 2020 off of vibes alone.
I think I'm gonna keep this surprise for 6 months, but Jack, I might already have my number 10. It was a good old match that actually might be moved up if I find a better number 10. But I was like, oh, what a pleasant surprise this was.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it right now. I don't even know what my top 10 list is gonna look like. Like usually I have a clue. Like we saw last year, my number one match was decided by June last year. This year around, it's like I don't even know what I'm going to put as number 10. I don't even know what's going to be put into consideration.
Dang.
Meanwhile, I'm over here struggling on the music side where I'm just like, I might have to expand this to a top 20.
What's the last album you listened to, Jack?
Let me.
We'll end on a high note. We'll end on your music recommendation. What was the last one you heard?
Let's see. Let me check my spreadsheet. What is today? The 9th? Today's album for my walk, day 312, was The Changing of the Trees by Dom McLennan, which was a former member of the group Brockhampton. I really enjoyed that project. I like its album cover. It's a rap album, but okay. It's very I don't. What's the way I would put it? It's more like I would say like a down to earth rap style, where it's like it's more like personal. It's more like of that artist's style rather than like some of these other artists where it's like they go in with like maybe a theme. They go in with the purpose of what's it called, like sales. Trying to get the most hits on an album. It's like it's more like just like you can tell it's like very personalized in a way, if that makes sense. Like it's very down to earth. Like I said, it's very much like man, I don't know what way to put it, but it's like it's just that like rap style. Like it's I don't know. I don't have the word for it. You'll just have if for the listeners out there, you'll just have to trust me when I say it's very down to earth.
There's maybe a uniqueness or an authenticity that you don't hear a lot in more mass-produced music. Yeah,
it's very authentic to the artist himself. That's the best way I can put it.
Interesting. Where's he from?
Is he from the U.S.? I think he's from the U.S.
Oh my! I was thinking what state, and you're like, I don't think he's a foreigner.
Let's see. Is there any information on him? Let's see.
Where did you hear about him? You said he was a former member of something.
Of a group called Brockhampton. It was basically like a boy. They called themselves a boy band, but it was like they were much like a rap group. He's from Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I wonder if he's a rap band.
Would be interesting to learn. But yeah, that was my last album.
Guess who's a wrestling fan?
Who?
Blink 182.
Oh,
I took my niece to the concert on Saturday. I didn't go in. I waited outside while my sister and my brother-in-law and my niece went inside. I said, I'll be your ride and I'm going to watch Money in the Bank in the car. That's what I did. But get this. I can hear everything from outside. They come out to the stage to Undertaker's theme song. I was like, that was 100% the Undertaker's theme. And then I can hear him on the mic go, whose house? And no one knew what to say. And I'm in the parking lot going, well, it's Swerve's house, but I don't know who I'm supposed to say. Mark's? Tom's? Travis?
I always have fun whenever I learn like certain people are wrestling fans. You know.
Yeah, I was like, he is 1,000% a wrestling fan. He just asked that stadium whose house. Hey, Jack, can I make a music recommendation?
Let me hear it.
So, Blink 182 ended the show. Before them, Pierce the Veil played. That was who my niece was really excited to see. But before them was a band called Hot Milk. And
Oh, I know them.
and my sister said it sounded like your music, Philip. So I pulled them up on Apple Music while we drove home. I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely subscribe to this. Hot Milk.
Yeah, I know them.
What do you know them from?
The first song I had heard from them was I think called "Candy Coated Lies,"
Oh,
and then I like from there because I've always told my dad this and I've told people this. You know, it seems to like when you look at my like whole playlist, which you know I have a ton of songs in, but like when you look at it, it's like a lot of people like tend to notice that like there's like especially like as of late, like from high school on, there's a lot more rap that was introduced to my playlist. There was a lot more different genres like R&B, K-pop,
yeah.
even, you know, it's like, and people are like, well, what happened to the rock? If you grew up on rock, you know, why isn't there more of that? And I'm just like, I've always said, for whatever reason, in the past couple of years, it's like, it's been harder to find rock groups, punk groups, you know, it's like, it's been harder to find them that aren't just older groups that are still around making music. And it's harder finding ones that, you know, I don't want to sound mean, but actually make good rock music.
Dang.
So like
Good.
when I found them, I just started instantly listening to more music from them because I was like, you know how rare it is for me to find a rock group that I like nowadays, you know, that doesn't sound.
Jack didn't just come in with the salt. He came in with that Tams orange salt. he came in. He came in with that what's it called? Not say like what's that seasoning called? He came in with that Italian seasoning. With that cumin.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just the way I've always felt. Where it's like, oh,
Jack said, hey, I mean, who's out there except for those guys like Blink 182 has been around for longer than they should have. They don't make music, they make money. That's what Jack said.
funny enough, I saw a guy on TikTok even come up with a series called "Groups That Need to Retire Already."
Oh, the Jerichos of the music world. Number one, Ozzy.
Oh man.
Well, this has been an exciting new long form version of this podcast, Jack.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This says an hour and 46. Now, that may be cut a bit due to the part I got to go edit out in post, but yeah, long form content now. And another thing to our listeners that I'll have to mention in the Instagram post for this, because I canceled the Spreaker subscription for the time being, unless I can figure out a way, but I don't know. There might be difficulties with that. But from here on out, more than likely, Season 5 will only be on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's that, you know, opening for Season 5. Glad to have opened it up strong. Glad to give so much variety in it, you know. I know my dad's going to have a blast listening to this. He probably is going to have to listen to some of it at work and then another half on the drive home to get all of it.
Got that cultaholic multi-hour format going.
Yeah, this might turn from my dad having it on during his drives to having it on in the background while he works.
Heck yeah, let's go.
But with that being said,
I hope he's drunk enough water. Stay hydrated.
But with all that being said, thank you all for joining us for another strong start to another season of the Call It Anything podcast. I've been Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
Thank you all for joining in this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.